Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice! Sorry, I just had to say that. Beetlejuice was a live-action horror comedy film made in 1988 and was directed by none other than Tim Burton, who also directed Edward Scissorhands and Batman. This film was also considered a cult classic and was rated as one of the top comedy films of the 80s. Now, before I get into what I liked and hated about this film, I'd like to give a brief summary on this film. The movie starts off with a nice couple named Adam and Barbara Maitland, played by Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, tragically end up in a car accident, and when the couple went back home, they discovered that they are ghosts and that they were killed in the car accident. After their funeral, however, the Maitlands soon discover that a new and very eccentric family called the Dietz is moving into their old home and are redecorating the place, much to the Maitlands' dismay. So in order to get rid of the unwelcome new family, the Maitlands decide to call up on the buyer exorcist named Beetlejuice, who is played by Michael Keaton, who proclaims that he can help the Maitlands get rid of the Dietz. But can Beetlejuice be trusted? Now, I will admit that when I first saw this movie as a child, I was actually terrified of it, especially the sandworm scenes, which gave me the creeps to no end. But when I got older, I found out that this movie was fantastic, and I was barely scared of it anymore. There's just so much I really enjoyed about this movie that it would be hard for me to really describe everything. But here's what I loved about this movie. First of all of the actors in this movie were just so fantastic that they had made all the characters in this film just come to life. I love the way that Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis portrayed the Maitlands as being a friendly ghost couple who are still trying to get used to the idea of being dead, and it was refreshing and hilarious seeing how the Maitlands tried to scare off the Dietz family. One of my all-time favorite scenes was where the Maitlands tried to scare off the Dietz family during the Banana Boat Song scene where the Maitlands possessed the Dietz family to dancing to the Banana Boat Song. I also love the Maitland's relationship with Lydia Dietz, the daughter of Charles and Delia Dietz, as they treated Lydia like their own daughter, even going as far as to explain about what death is like for them and what Lydia should know about death. Catherine O'Hara was just so fantastic as Delia Dietz, as she seemed snobby as eccentric when it came to her artwork. Have you seen her artwork? And she seems like a character that you would love to hate. But I found her eccentric ideas for how to decorate a house and regarding her artwork to be very interesting, and I just really enjoyed her character throughout this movie. Winona Ryder was just so brilliant as Lydia Dietz, as she portrays the character as being a lonely and gloomy girl who loves everything that is supernatural. And I loved her relationship with the Maitlands, since she really does enjoy supernatural stuff, which really makes her have a closer relationship with the Maitlands. But the character that really made this movie worth watching was none other than Beetlejuice himself, played by Michael Keaton. I love how Michael Keaton portrayed Beetlejuice as being a loud, crude, and hilarious ghost rather than a really scary character, as that really brought something unique to the idea of movies where they have scary ghosts. We get this vibe throughout this film that Beetlejuice is some kind of frightening ghost that would kill anyone, but instead we get a wisecracking ghost who makes crude jokes all the time, wears a black and white striped suit, which was the most unique thing about his character, and has a vivid personality that sort of makes him more like a ghost who just causes mischief rather than being an actual threat to the characters. Now on to the good part, and that's talking about the themes in this movie. I love how the movie presented the theme of death, and what we usually consider dark and frightening is presented in a humorous way that makes the idea about what is really going on in the afterlife much more interesting. I love the way that the afterlife is viewed as a bureaucracy, as the Maitlands have a caseworker named Juno, who actually helps the Maitlands trying to get used to the idea about being ghosts. And I actually love the idea that the Maitlands have a handy handbook for the deceased that teaches new ghosts what to do in the afterlife and how to scare the living properly. I also love the fact that this movie actually let us get to know the Maitlands before they died, since it's rare for many ghost movies where they actually show us the ghost characters before they die and how they were like. Although maybe that's just me, since the ghost movies I've seen often doesn't let us know about the ghost's past lives until near the end of the movie. And because of that, I actually felt myself really sympathizing with the Maitlands and their predicament at being dead. Now, here are some things that kind of irk me about this movie, and that's regarding about the title of the movie and some of the confusing plots running through this film. Now, since the movie is called Beetlejuice, you would have thought that this movie would have had the character Beetlejuice in the majority of the scenes since his name is in the title. However, Beetlejuice only shows up a few times in this movie, and this movie seems to be more about the Maitlands and Lydia than about Beetlejuice. Now, that wasn't really bad in my opinion because I still enjoyed the movie and I loved the character development going on with the Maitlands and Lydia. But I guess I was expecting Beetlejuice to have some sort of big presence in the film since his name was in the title, although I have seen many movies where there's a certain character's name in the title and the movie never really focused on that character. Another thing that irked me about this movie was that there were some confusing moments in the film, especially regarding about how the boundaries between the world of the living and the dead are set. Now I know that it was mentioned in the movie that the living can't see the dead except for living beings who are considered strange and unusual like Lydia. But what about whenever ghosts like the Maitlands are living in the living world and they have to travel to the afterlife? Would the living notice the different worlds that the dead go to, like the sandworm world that would pop up every time the mateless try to leave their house? I guess since the living can't see the dead, they can't see the worlds that the dead go to. I know this is a fantasy film and such logic is thrown out of the window, but I was always curious about the world of the living and the dead coexisting with each other. Beetlejuice is rated PG, and although the reason for the rating wasn't really given, I'm going to safely say that the reason is for scary humor, action, and mild language. However, if this movie was re-rated nowadays, it would be PG-13, because there was some strong language in this film, mainly during the scene where Beetlejuice drops the F-bomb. Now, bear in mind that this film um, came out in 1988 when the PG-13 rating didn't really make a strong impact on the rating system until years later, so it was one of the few movies of the 80s to get away with strong language in a PG-rated movie. Overall, I'm giving Beetlejuice a 9.5 out of 10, and I took off half a point because some of the scenes were confusing, and I sort of wish that Beetlejuice made more of an appearance in the movie since I love him so much. But this was easily one of the best horror comedy films I have ever seen, since the humor and the scariness balance out so well in the movie, where it's not too scary or too campy for the audience. I definitely think that it deserved to be all the praise that it got when it first came out in the late 80s, since this movie is a true classic to behold. Well, that's my movie review on Beetlejuice, and be sure to stay tuned for more of my movie review videos. This is Rabbitearblog, and I'll see you later.